I mean, this is just explosive. There's so many allegations in here that are really painting Diddy out to be the Epstein of the music industry. I think it's connected to these rumors that keep circulating that Diddy's CIA. I'm Stephanie Keith.
And I am Tara Manjekovic, and we are unapologetically outspoken. Hey everyone, happy Monday. Let's see, before we start today's episode, I just want to say that I hope you guys all had a wonderful Transgender Day of Visibility, because that's what the Biden admin wanted you to celebrate and focus on yesterday. So fuck Easter, right? But Stephanie, how was your Transgender Day of Visibility? Like, I'm just curious, did you take the kids to a drag show?
No, no, I didn't take him to a drag show, unfortunately. No rainbow flags flying here. No, but you want to know what I heard is that I guess on Easter, it's like tradition for kids to bring Easter eggs to the White House. I'm not really sure like what they do, but there's some like tradition. And the White House now is banning any eggs that have any like religious symbols on them. So, no Easter, no Jesus, no none of that, according to Biden.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But he's a Catholic. So, oh my gosh. Well, this is going to go in a completely different direction because today we're going to talk about something that I actually think is going to wake up a lot of people. And honestly, like it could completely change the entertainment industry and just the way we view celebrities. So Sean Combs or Diddy or Puff Daddy or Puff, like whatever you know him as, he's got a million damn names. But he had two of his homes raided by Homeland Security last Monday. And at the time, I guess he got on his private jet and fled the country to an island. And in my opinion, that just makes you look really guilty. But I guess at this point, people are saying that he's back in Miami, or at least his private jet is back. But now he is facing multiple lawsuits that are accusing him of everything from sex trafficking to sexual abuse and rape. And I guess this has been going on for a long time. This is the first I've heard of it because the media just isn't covering it. But the first claim came from his girlfriend, Cassie, that he dated all the way back in 2005 when she was 19 and he was 37. And she filed a suit claiming that we're just going to call him Diddy for the sake of this episode, that Diddy raped, abused, and trafficked her for 10 years while they were in a relationship. And the lawsuit was settled out of court. I unfortunately looked up the court documents, and I don't recommend anyone do that because it is horrific what happened to this poor girl. But other women filed lawsuits kind of along the same lines, accusing him of rape. But the most recent lawsuit is from his music producer, Rodney Little Rod Jones. And I mean, this is just explosive. There's so many allegations in here that are really painting Diddy out to be the Epstein of the music industry. And Jones isn't just suing Diddy, like he's suing a whole list of people and organizations that were allegedly complicit, including Diddy's son, Lucian Grange, who is CEO of Universal Music, Motown Records, Universal Music Group, Diddy's chief of staff, Christina Karam, who is being painted as like the Madame or the Ghislaine Maxwell of the whole like Diddy organization, the former CEO of Motown Records, and a list of John and Jane Doe's and ABC corporations. So here's the thing. Jones's lawyers claim that he has hundreds of hours of Diddy engaging in illegal activity. And this has to be true because, first of all, for lawyers to bring this type of a lawsuit, there has to be proof. Otherwise, they can be disbarred. And second, Homeland Security wouldn't be able to raid his homes if there wasn't at least enough evidence for a warrant. Don't you think, Tara?
Yeah, I gotta say, just from my personal experience as a cop for 15 years, I was involved in executing many search warrants, and I had to write several search warrants as well when I was a detective. And it's not easy to get a search warrant without meeting very specific requirements. You have to detail exactly what you're looking for. And sometimes, even then, the judge doesn't approve it, and they'll make you like narrow down the scope, and you just don't get free reign to go search a house unless like you're raiding Mar-a-Lago with the backing of the
Right?
Biden admin. Yeah. And then pretend like they don't know anything about it, then it's probably easy. But in the real world, you have to have like solid probable cause and specify the items that you're searching for and where you're going to be searching for them. And then the judge has to sign off and give you the green light to serve the warrant. And so, from what I read in this particular case, the DHS officers reportedly had a lot of probable cause, and they put out a statement saying, quote, "We believe there is a disturbing history of sex trafficking. We are responding to concrete, detailed, explicit allegations. This is not random. We didn't choose his name out of a hat," end quote. And like he wasn't detained or arrested, and there were no travel restrictions placed on him. So if he fled the country, that's interesting, but I guess it depends what you read because one article I read said that he already had like a trip planned to the Bahamas. So who knows? But either way, Stephanie, this reminds me of like the crypto scandal that went down last year with Sam Bankman Fried. And remember, he fled to another country,
Yes.
which,
Mhm.
by the way, he was completely fucking guilty. And he just ended up getting sentenced to 25 years in prison last Friday for crypto fraud.
Yeah. And maybe he knew that they were going to find some damning evidence, so he got the hell out of town. Who knows? Who
Yeah.
knows? But I guess that like in the past, he's been accused of all kinds of crazy things, which I remember some of it like around the time he was with J Lo and there was that whole club shooting. But like I didn't know just how deep this goes. So you have like Kanye who accused him of being a Fed. And he's also been accused many times of being responsible for Tupac's death. But what I didn't know was that the reason Diddy was able to start his own label at the age of 24 was because he was mentored by Clive Davis, who basically has run the music industry for decades. I mean, this guy's been around like our parents' generation. And apparently, again, I didn't know this until this all came along, but it's been like a long-standing rumor in the music industry that Diddy and Clive Davis had a sexual relationship. And apparently, like everyone in the industry knew Diddy had these like wild sex parties and had sex with men. And that's all a big part of this lawsuit. So the lawsuit states that while Mr. Jones, so again, that's Diddy's producer, while he was the producer, he, I guess, lived with him for months at a time, including in all of his homes and his private yacht, which coincidentally went to all of those areas, like Epstein. And he was apparently required to do things that went way beyond his duties as a music producer. So, according to the lawsuit, the hundreds of hours of video evidence includes acquiring, distributing, and using illegal drugs, displaying and distributing unregistered illegal firearms, Diddy lacing the drinks of minors and sex workers at his home, Christian Combs drugging and sexually assaulting a woman, Diddy using his relationship with Bishop T.D. Jakes to soften his public image after the lawsuit from Cassie, Young Miami's cousin sexually assaulting Jones. This one surprised me. Actor Cuba Gooding Jr. sexually harassing and assaulting Jones, and then a rapper and R&B singer whose names were redacted consorting with underage girls and sex workers. And like Tara, at this point, I was like, wow, this is really bad. Like, that's a
Yeah.
lot of stuff going on. I didn't realize that's only the first page. Like, it goes on and on. There are pages and pages of allegations. And he also included photos that are from like the hundreds of hours of video that this guy has. So the next accusation is like truly wild. Okay. So Jones describes a situation in which Diddy, his son Justin, and Justin's friend G all got into an argument at this camp that was being held at the recording studio. And I guess they took the argument into the bathroom, according to the lawsuit, and shots were fired. Then Diddy and his son come out of the bathroom, and Jones, the producer, sees G on the floor in the fetal position, bleeding from his stomach. And so Jones began providing aid to G and instructing them to call an ambulance because everyone was just kind of standing around in shock. And Diddy gave Jones strict instructions to tell the police that him and his son had nothing to do with the shooting. And clearly, Jones was terrified. I mean, anyone would be terrified after witnessing something like that. And so then the lawsuit attaches this news article stating that the LAPD showed up to the scene of a drive-by shooting where a man was shot as he stepped out of the studio. So it looks like Diddy and his son just got away with it. They said that it happened out of the studio instead of in the bathroom. Then the lawsuit goes into these accusations of Diddy sexually harassing and assaulting Jones and also attempting to groom him into performing gay sex. It talks about Diddy and his son soliciting drugs and engaging in illicit sex with minors and sex workers. And apparently, there were cameras everywhere. Like he attached photos, like I said, to the lawsuit. He said he has a ton more. And I guess there were cameras in every single room, including bathrooms and closets at Diddy's various homes, which is probably what Homeland Security was looking for. So, what it looks like is just like Epstein was blackmailing all these important people by videoing them having sex with minors, it appears that Diddy was doing the same thing. And it should also be noted that many of these sex parties took place in the Virgin Islands. So it's like people keep saying that, this is going to expose the rap industry. But it's much bigger than that because according to the lawsuit, Jones claims that Diddy had video blackmail on all celebrities, like not just rappers, also music label executives, politicians, and athletes. And so did Epstein. Like there's so many parallels, it's crazy. And Tara, I'm starting to wonder like how many Epsteins are out there, you know?
Well, I guess the real question is when is Diddy gonna commit suicide, aka like end up on the Clinton kill list? Because you know if he has blackmail on the elites the way that Epstein reportedly did, he's not gonna be around much longer.
Well, that's a good point. And maybe that's why he got on his private jet. And you have that Suge Knight who's like in prison saying that if Diddy goes to prison, he'll be killed. Like, so he's already like putting that out there. But I'm worried about the producer. Like, I would be terrified if I were that guy that someone's
Mhm.
gonna take him out because if he has video footage on like every elite in the industry, they're gonna be coming for him, I would assume.
Oh yeah.
So I'm going to play a clip from the Glenn Beck podcast where he was talking with Jason Whitlock about the whole Diddy thing. And Jason Whitlock gives some fascinating insight. So take a listen to this.
It used to be. And so in all the arts, they're trying to push us towards a nihilistic worldview, and they've done that with hip hop. And P. Diddy is one of the faces and most powerful people in hip hop. But again, as I expounded on, it's not just Diddy. It's like BlackRock and Vanguard. They actually own the music industry and control the music.
Wait. The investment houses of BlackRock and Vanguard, they own the music industry?
Absolutely. From Sony Music Group to they're the most invested in the music industry. They're the most through Viacom. They own BET, MTV, VH1. They're in control of the music industry, and they also own the overwhelming majority of stock in the private prison industry. I think the stock name is called CXW now. It's called Core Civic. It used to be called Corrections Corporations of America, and then they transitioned the name. And so this whole hip hop deal was about creating a culture where like prison is a rite of passage and corruption and criminality is just built into the system, and it feeds the prison system, the private prison industry, and it's exploded. But more than anything, it's promoted a nihilistic view, and a view that like.
Okay, so I wanted to play that, and I think that it's important because I think that this is like so much bigger than Diddy. Like, I think just like Epstein, like he's just a pawn that the elites, the CIA, the Mossad, whoever are like controlling. And so this kind of ties together like how with Diddy, with Epstein, with these guys, how our government agencies are basically shaping the culture in a negative way so that they can profit. So what he's saying is like rap music, the whole rap industry was created to infiltrate Black society and make criminals cool so that the private prisons profit. And just like he said, who owns the private prisons? BlackRock and Vanguard. Who owns the music industry? BlackRock and Vanguard. And it also explains why people like Soros and like other Democrat politicians keep creating policies that create more and more crime. And they're likely like all getting a piece of the profit from private prisons. Like, I would love to know how many shares they hold with these organizations. And so, like, Candace Owens has been talking about this for a long time, saying that Black culture is the only culture that props up uneducated criminals. And according to this interview, it's that way because the rap industry has been conditioning our youth to think that crime is cool and a rite of passage.
Yeah, and she's absolutely right on that. And this is totally unrelated, but you made me think of it because you mentioned prisons, and this has everything to do with like the overall agenda. So, did you know that the Biden admin is pushing to register criminals in prison to vote?
Ugh, no, but I'm not surprised.
Yeah, this goes back to like an executive order that he created back in 2021, but it's basically an attempt to register voters in prison, even though felons and prisoners are ineligible to vote by law. And there was an article that recently came out in the Epic Times, and this order is forcing U.S. Marshals to modify more than 900 contracts with prisons and jails to provide voter registration documents and facilitate mail in voting for inmates. And the order includes directives for federal agencies to help, applicants complete the application. So I don't think it's just private prisons. I think this is like a full scale federal effort to increase election fraud with mail in voting. And of course, this is all going to profit the elites. And so as to what you were saying before, like speaking of the elites and going back to the Diddy case, I want to play a quick clip from another interview that Jason Whitlock did. It was on his own podcast, and he was doing a show with Shamika Michelle, and he brings up the Obamas and how he believes that they're complicit in creating this culture.
Superstardom, and it's crazy, Jason, what they're doing and what our people are consistently falling for. When you talked about
hold on one second, let me throw this in. If I had one particular people I would be most disappointed in, your conversation just took me, is like the Obamas, Michelle and Barack. They know this world. They befriended these rappers. They normalized bringing rappers to the White House. Obama puts out his little playlist of what he's listening to all the time, and rap is always included. So he can't plead ignorance. And so when I see a Michelle Obama and a Barack Obama silent on this type of stuff, it must mean that they support it and they're in on it.
They're definitely in on it. And when I think about the commercial that you show, or the skit that you show with 50 Cent and Snoop.
Okay, so it goes on, but that's pretty interesting, don't you think? Because he's right.
Yeah. And there's all these pictures going around TikTok right now of Obama with Diddy. And like they're always doing stuff with like Beyonce and Jay-Z, and everyone's talking about how they're very tied with Diddy as well. So like I think it's all connected. Like, I do not think this is just the rap industry. I think it's the rap industry, the politicians, Hollywood, like just celebrities, like the elites, all in this nefarious club. And right now, Diddy's the fall guy, just like Epstein was the fall guy. So I want to get to another interesting part of the lawsuit because this talks about how Diddy had made all these claims that he has immense power over the music industry and law enforcement. And he made it clear that his head of security, whose name is Fahim Muhammad, had the power to make things and people disappear. And according to the document, Muhammad spoke with LAPD after that shooting with G at the recording studio. And the LAPD had spent hours in the studio and there was not one arrest made. So, Tara, I got to ask you about it since you used to work for the LAPD. Like, what's your take on this? And I mean, could it be possible that they're getting paid off somehow, or someone in the LAPD is like kind of working behind the scenes with Diddy to cover these things up?
Okay, I'll say this. I know there's corruption in the LAPD because I've seen it firsthand. And I want to make it clear I am not talking shit about the department as a whole. I worked with some incredible cops during my career, and the majority of my experiences with other officers were very positive. But this is well known. You can go online, you can find multiple incidents and scandals involving the LAPD, and most of the information out there is fairly accurate. And I don't know anything about this particular incident with Diddy. I wasn't there, and this didn't happen while I was working there. But here's my take on it. Like, LAPD leadership is beholden to the city officials. Like LA County, you have a sheriff, he's voted in, elected by the constituents. The chief of LAPD is appointed by the mayor, has to be approved by the city council and the police commission. And so I my personal belief is the city of Los Angeles is a shit show of corruption when it comes to government officials. So I can't say it would surprise me if officers were getting paid off, but I think in a case of this magnitude, that decision would have had to come from the top. And considering that the officers reportedly spent hours inside the studio and made no arrest, I believe if there was some kind of corruption going on, I don't think it was the officers on the scene. I would think that that call would be made by the higher ups and ultimately, excuse me, come from the mayor's office because,
Yeah.
again, very corrupt. But you mentioned Candace Owens earlier, and she did a podcast on this whole thing with Diddy, and it like made me sit up and take notice because, I don't follow the celebrity stuff most of the time. And when you first told me about it, I was like, okay, this is interesting. I had no idea any of this was even going on. And then you mentioned that Candace had done a podcast and that she decided like she wasn't going to cover the story any further. And I was kind of shocked because, like us, she's incredibly outspoken. So that kind of told me that this issue is so much bigger than we think it is, to the point where if she's not comfortable going any deeper into it, that's like red flags. And it reminded me of like what happened with the authors of the Fall of the Cabal when one of them committed suicide reportedly before they finished releasing episodes, and like now her partner's afraid to continue the project. And I believe all this shit is connected, and it's just so much darker and so much more widespread than I ever could have imagined before I developed my conspiracy brain. And with all the conspiracy shit we talk about, I feel like nothing should be surprising me anymore. But I was surprised to find that this shit with Diddy has allegedly been going on for like 30 years. And I just, I guess I never thought it was all so dark and evil until I watched Follow the Cabal and realized that everything is connected. And so I do want to bring up the episode that Candace Owens did a couple weeks ago because she talked about this guy, Fahim Muhammad, and how he's like the cleanup guy in the industry, and he has the connections to get people out of a jam with the police or whatever situation they end up in. And just like with the Diddy related shooting, he was on scene when Michael Jackson died. And in fact, this guy was Michael Jackson's head of security when he was just 21 years old. So this is weird because he had only been out of college for a year. He had a degree in business and real estate. So how did this young kid end up being head of security for one of the biggest celebrities, not in the United States, but in the entire fucking world? Like, nobody seems to know.
Yeah, it is interesting. And I think it's connected to these rumors that keep circulating that Diddy's CIA, that he's working for the CIA in some way. Like that would make sense because if you went to school for business and real estate, and then a year later, you're head of security for Michael Jackson, the only way that would make sense is if you were like CIA or something, and that degree was just your cover story. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's definitely something weird going on there. And when you look back on interviews from Frank Lucas, so like he was that infamous gangster that ran heroin for the CIA, and there's a whole movie by Denzel Washington called American Gangster that's based on this guy. Well, he has said in multiple interviews that he was good friends with Melvin Combs, Diddy's father, and he knew Diddy when he was a young boy. So there is like this kind of weird family connection to the CIA. And then I see this clip from Jesse Waters where Diddy's former bodyguard made claims that Diddy was, in fact, part of the CIA. So take a listen to this.
As a confidential informant.
People don't realize this, brother. First and foremost, Puff has been dodging the legal system for years. Puff being, and this is documented, Puff being a CI for an FBI agent. They was taking some papers up to the FBI as to like when they was here in New York. They was taking paperwork up there and stuff like that. Don't know what it was, but later on found out that he was a CI.
Now, Primetime can't confirm this, but if Diddy was an FBI informant, it explains why he was giving a pass to wreak havoc, according to his producer's lawsuit. What Diddy wanted, Diddy got.
The video of him.
Oh,
All while he was cozying up to Hollywood figures like Harvey Weinstein and becoming a major voice in the Democratic Party with his vote or die campaigns for Kerry, Barack, Hillary, Biden, getting souls to the polls. For 2 decades, Diddy thought he was untouchable. But now he's had his house raided, tapes confiscated, and the feds are zeroing in on his flight records. Diddy's world's crumbling. The rap industry's warning him that his clock's ticking. Infamous death row executive Suge Knight, serving time for a fatal hit and run, is warning the Brother Love handle won't fly in prison.
I tell you what, Puffy, your life is in danger.
Okay, we can stop the clip now. He's telling him his life's in danger.
I love
Okay.
Jesse Waters.
I know. There's always like crazy clips in there. So let's just think about this with common sense for a second, okay? If all these people that knew him very well are saying that he's CIA or an FBI informant, whatever, somehow connected to one of the alphabet agencies, and, you know, he's got these family connections to Frank Lucas and whatever. And all of these other lawsuits that came along for years saying how he was sex trafficking minors, they all seem to go away. We never really heard about them in the media. Like I never heard about them. He was never arrested. But now all of a sudden it becomes news. Why does it become news? Well, because Homeland Security raided his house. Well, why did they raid his house? Well, because his producer is saying there's all of this video evidence of it. So were they really going to collect evidence, or were they going to clean up and find out what's out there, who's involved, if he is, in fact, one of their operatives? You know what I mean?
Yes. Well, and two, how did it get to the level of DHS being the ones to do the raid? Like normally these things happen at a local law enforcement level, not a federal level.
Right, exactly. And I mean, look at Epstein. We still don't have the client list. We still don't have any arrests. 0 arrests were made. And he took the fall for everything. And like literally he was probably a CIA operative that was like the middleman. And so that's probably what's going to happen here with Diddy. And it would make sense. It would make sense. And if you know how we'll know is if there are no more arrests in the music industry or with politicians or any of these elites, and it's just Diddy that gets taken down, and or this producer vanishes. That's how we'll know that they're in on it. So we're going to have to do a follow-up episode as the story
Yeah.
unfolds because like it's getting crazy. So I think it's just the beginning. Everyone stay tuned. I'm going to be all over this, just like I was all over Maui. And yeah, we'll see you back here on Wednesday. So everyone have a great day and thanks for tuning in. If you're sick of all the crazy shit going on in our country and you want to express your support and patriotism for the show, head on over to our Etsy store at UO Patriot Chicks and check out our new stickers. The link can also be found on our website. If you love the show and you want exclusive episodes, support the podcast and join the conversation by becoming a member of our Patreon community. We'll be posting weekly member-only podcast episodes and content that isn't available on the weekly podcast. Every Patreon member will also get a free Unapologetically Outspoken sticker and updates about our new sticker release before they're made public. And be sure to follow us on TikTok at Unapologetically Outspoken. And if you haven't done so already, please rate and review the podcast. The more you support us, the more people we can reach. So help us spread the word.